Ambassador Thexelar of the Galactic Council stood before the viewing port of his flagship, watching Earth's blue marble rotate peacefully below. His mandibles clicked with satisfaction. After 3 standard cycles of negotiations, threats, and economic sanctions, the humans had finally agreed to the disarmament accord. Primitive warmongers, he muttered to his aide. They'll thank us eventually for saving them from themselves. The council had been unanimous. Humanity, the newest species to achieve faster-than-light travel, possessed an alarming capacity for violence. Their history was drenched in blood. 2 world wars, countless regional conflicts, and weapons capable of rendering their own planet uninhabitable. The Council couldn't allow such a volatile species to roam the galaxy armed. The treaty was comprehensive. All military spacecraft decommissioned, weapons manufacturing facilities dismantled, defensive satellites removed from orbit. Earth would be protected by Council peacekeepers. Humanity would finally join the civilized galaxy. Thexelar watched as the last of Earth's orbital defense platforms were towed away for scrap. The humans had been surprisingly compliant in the end, though their representatives had worn strange expressions during the signing ceremony, something between a smile and a grimace that Thexelar couldn't quite interpret. "Sir," his aide interrupted, "we're receiving multiple distress signals from the outer rim. The Kresh horde has broken through the neutral zone." Thexelar's confidence wavered. The Kresh were a nightmare the Council had contained for generations, a species that knew only conquest and consumption. The neutral zone was supposed to be impenetrable. "How many ships?" "Thousands, sir. They're moving toward populated systems. The Council fleet is en route, but..." The aide hesitated. "Preliminary reports suggest our weapons are largely ineffective against their new shielding technology." Within days, the situation deteriorated into chaos. The Kresh tore through Council defenses like they were gossamer. Entire colonies went dark. Refugee ships flooded the core systems. The Council's mighty fleet, designed more for show than warfare after centuries of relative peace, was being systematically destroyed. Thexelar found himself back at Earth, but not as a victor, as a supplicant. The human representative, a silver-haired woman named General Sarah Chen, met him in the same conference room where they'd signed the disarmament accord. She didn't look surprised to see him. "Ambassador," she said, gesturing to a seat, "I assume you're here about the Kresh. The Council requests Earth's assistance in this crisis. Surely you understand that if the Kresh aren't stopped, humanity will also face extinction." Chen leaned back, studying him with unsettling calm. "You demanded we dismantle our entire military infrastructure. We complied. What exactly do you expect us to fight with?" Thexelar's mandibles clicked nervously. "Perhaps there are reserves, mothballed vessels." "There are no reserves, Ambassador. You watched us destroy everything yourselves." She paused, letting the weight of his mistake settle. "But you're right about one thing. The Kresh won't stop with Council worlds. They'll come for Earth eventually. Then, however," Chen continued, "you made a critical error in your assessment of humanity. You saw our weapons and assumed that's what made us dangerous. You saw our history of war and thought that made us barbaric." She stood, walking to the viewport. "You never asked why we survived all those wars, Ambassador. You never wondered what happens to a species that spends 10,000 years learning how to kill, and then decides to stop." Thexelar felt something cold settle in his gut. "We didn't dismantle our military, Ambassador. We evolved it." Chen pressed a button on her tablet. "You took our ships, our missiles, our obvious weapons. You never thought to ask what else we might have." The viewport flickered, showing Earth's moon. Its surface rippled like water, massive sections retracting to reveal honeycombed structures beneath, structures that had been there long before the Council arrived. 40 years ago, we finished hollowing out Luna, not for living space, for manufacturing. While you were congratulating yourselves on civilizing the savage humans, we were building something new." More screens activated around the room. Thexelar saw asteroids fracturing open, revealing shipyards. He saw installations on Mars, Venus, and dozens of moons throughout the solar system. Everywhere, the same thing. Massive production facilities that had been hidden in plain sight. The disarmament accord specified military spacecraft and weapons. It said nothing about mining equipment, construction vehicles, or industrial fabricators. Chen smiled that same unsettling smile from the treaty signing. "Funny thing about humans, Ambassador. Give us any tool and we'll figure out how to weaponize it if we need to. But more importantly, we'll figure out how to build whatever we need whenever we need it. How long? Thexlar whispered. To rebuild our fleet? We already have. To build something better? 72 hours. The next week, the galaxy watched in stunned silence as Earth deployed the largest fleet ever assembled. But these weren't the clumsy warships the Council had scrapped. These were vessels that had learned from every species humanity had encountered, incorporating technology that had taken other races millennia to develop, all refined and improved through humanity's singular gift: adaptability. The Battle of Kepler 442 lasted 6 hours. The Kresh Horde, unstoppable force that had shattered the Council's might, broke against Earth's fleet like waves against a cliff. Human vessels moved with precision that seemed almost prescient, their weapons bypassing Kresh shields through frequencies the Council had never thought to try, their tactics drawing on 10,000 years of competitive warfare. When it was over, the Kresh retreated back beyond the neutral zone. They never returned. Thexlar stood once more before Chen, this time with the entire Council behind him broadcasting across the galaxy. On behalf of the Galactic Council, he said, the words tasting like ash, we formally request a truce with humanity and withdraw all provisions of the disarmament accord. Chen nodded graciously. The truce is accepted, but Ambassador, let me be clear about something. She leaned forward, her eyes hard. You came to our world and demanded we disarm because you feared what we might do with weapons. Now you know the truth. The weapons were never what made us dangerous. Our creativity, our adaptability, our absolute refusal to quit. That's what you should have feared. And now every species in this galaxy knows it too. She stood, preparing to leave. We'll help rebuild the damaged worlds. We'll share our technology. We'll even train your peacekeepers. But never again presume to tell humanity what we can or cannot build. We decided to join your council in peace. Remember that it was our choice. It still is. As Chen left the conference room, Thexlar finally understood the expression humans had worn at the original signing. It wasn't submission. It was pity, for him, for the Council, for anyone foolish enough to think that disarming humanity meant making them helpless. Earth's blue marble continued its peaceful rotation, now surrounded by a fleet that could shatter worlds. But the humans didn't conquer. They didn't threaten. They simply went back to their lives, carrying on as they always had, building, creating, adapting. And across the galaxy, every species whispered the same warning to their young: never back a human into a corner. And never ever mistake their mercy for weakness.